Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on hunting and gathering. I'm excited to take you on a journey through the fascinating world of early human societies. Today, we'll explore how our ancestors adapted to different environments and learned to survive and thrive. We'll look at key pages from the textbook, pages 20 through 22, and some important activities in the workbook, pages 14 and 15. So, let's get started and discover the remarkable story of our early ancestors. Today, we'll explore what you will learn in this session. First, we'll look at how hunters and gatherers moved seasonally to find different sources of food. This movement was crucial for their survival, allowing them to adapt to changing environments and access various resources throughout the year. Next, we'll examine how customs and traditions influence our way of life, shaping behaviors, social structures, and cultural identity over generations. Then, we'll understand why our ancestors turned to agriculture, which was a major shift that transformed human society and set the stage for civilization as we know it. We'll also discuss how our ancestors developed over time, highlighting key stages of human evolution and societal progress. Finally, we'll see the profound impact of writing on life, how it revolutionized communication, record-keeping, and the way knowledge was passed down through generations. All these points connect to the overall theme of human development and how our history has shaped the modern world. Who were the hunter-gatherers? Well, these were early humans who depended on hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants to survive. Their way of life was quite mobile. They didn't settle in one place, but moved around frequently in search of food. This nomadic lifestyle was actually the primary way humans obtained their subsistence for most of our history. It's fascinating to think that for thousands of years, our ancestors relied on this strategy, which shaped not only their survival, but also their social structures and interactions with the environment. Understanding this lifestyle helps us see the foundations of human adaptation and resilience, which is really central to the overall story of human development. Let's talk about how early humans adapted to a truly diverse world. Around 12,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers had already spread across the entire globe, from Australia to North and South America. This wide distribution shows just how adaptable they were. They developed flexible and rapidly evolving cultures that allowed them to adjust to different environments quickly. One of the key factors was their ability to adapt to virtually every climate zone and environmental niche, whether it was the freezing Arctic or the hot tropics. They showed incredible resilience and resourcefulness. For example, they built primitive houses suited to their surroundings and made use of local resources for food and survival. All these adaptations highlight how humans have always been capable of thriving in diverse conditions, which is a central theme of understanding human resilience and innovation throughout history. Let's talk about the art of the hunt. Primitive people relied heavily on hunting various animals for their food. They had to be incredibly adaptable, making use of whatever animals were available in their environment. This adaptability was essential for survival. In colder regions like the Arctic and subarctic, hunting played a particularly significant role in their diet, often providing a large portion of their nutritional needs. They didn't just hunt blindly. They developed specific strategies tailored to the game they were after and the environmental conditions they faced. This meant that their hunting techniques evolved based on the landscape, the season, and the types of animals they could find. Overall, this highlights how crucial hunting was, not just as a means of obtaining food, but as a skill that shaped their survival strategies and their relationship with the environment. It's a fascinating example of human ingenuity and adaptability in the face of challenging conditions. When we look at how early humans obtained their calories, it's striking to see that in temperate and tropical zones, about 75 to 80% of their total caloric intake actually came from gathering wild resources. This highlights just how central gathering was to their survival and diet. Diving into what they gathered, it wasn't just one thing. These early gatherers collected a wide variety of plants, including fruits, nuts, roots, and other edible parts. This diversity was crucial, providing a balanced and nutritious diet. What's really fascinating is the extensive knowledge that hunter-gatherers had about their environment. They knew hundreds of different plant species, what was safe to eat, when to harvest, and how to identify them. This deep understanding was essential for their survival. And it wasn't just about food. Many of these plants had multiple uses. They used them for fiber to make clothing or tools, for medicinal purposes to treat ailments, and even as soap substitutes for cleaning. This multifunctional use of plants made their resourcefulness even more impressive. Another key point is that this gathering practice was sustainable. Because they knew their environment so well, they could harvest what they needed without depleting resources, allowing the ecosystem to flourish and supporting their way of life over generations. So overall, gathering was not only a primary food source, but also a demonstration of their intimate connection with nature, knowledge that allowed them to live sustainably and adaptively within their environments. As spring arrives, we see new plants emerging and animals giving birth, which signals a time of renewal. Hunter-gatherers took advantage of this by moving to areas where fresh vegetation and young game were abundant, ensuring they had access to nutritious food sources. In the summer, resources become even more plentiful in certain locations. During this time, groups would gather fruits, nuts, and hunt seasonal game in these prime feeding areas, optimizing their food collection efforts. Come autumn, it's harvest time for nuts and seeds. Hunter-gatherers would move to areas with ripening plants, collecting as much as they could in preparation for the colder winter months ahead. This seasonal movement, or migration, was a key part of their strategy to access different food sources throughout the year. It allowed them to avoid overexploiting any single area, which was crucial for sustainable resource management. By moving with the seasons, they maintained a balance, supporting their populations without damaging the environment. This nomadic lifestyle wasn't just about survival. It was a smart way to live in harmony with nature, ensuring resources would be available for generations to come. Now, let's take a closer look at the roles within communities and how they collaborated. Starting with women, their primary role was gathering wild plants, fruits, nuts, and roots. This work was crucial because women provided about 75 to 80% of the total calories in both temperate and tropical zones. Their extensive knowledge of different plant species and their uses was vital for the group's survival. Importantly, this knowledge wasn't kept secret. Women shared it widely, both within their own groups and beyond, fostering a rich exchange of information. Turning to men, their main responsibility was hunting animals for food. In temperate zones, men contributed around 20 to 25% of the calories, but in Arctic regions, hunting became even more critical for survival due to the harsher environment. Men developed specialized hunting strategies tailored to the available game and climate, which helped them efficiently track and hunt their targets. It's also essential to recognize that this division of labor wasn't the same everywhere. Different groups adapted their roles based on their environment and cultural practices. So, while these patterns are common, they weren't universal. This division of roles highlights how communities optimize their skills and knowledge to thrive in diverse settings, reinforcing the overall theme of collaboration and adaptation in human societies. Let's talk about life in the band and its social structure. Typically, these groups lived in small bands, usually fewer than 250 people. This small size meant that everyone knew each other very well, creating a close-knit community. Life was very communal and cooperative, with cultural and technical knowledge shared freely among all members. There was a strong sense of social equality, no big social differences or class distinctions, which helped maintain harmony within the group. Knowledge was also a shared resource. What one person knew or believed was known and accepted by everyone else. This knowledge was preserved through customs, traditions, legends, and myths that everyone passed down. Customs and traditions played a fundamental role in shaping behavior and values. They were learned through imitation and storytelling, keeping the society's identity alive. The rules were simple and clear, and everyone understood their roles. Social pressure helped ensure proper behavior, reducing the need for formal enforcement. Interestingly, concepts like private life didn't really exist as we think of them today. These hunter-gatherer societies were entirely communal. Overall, social cohesion was maintained through shared knowledge, customs, and a collective approach to life. All right, let's test our knowledge with a couple of questions. First, how did hunter-gatherers get their food? The primary way was through hunting animals and gathering plants, which is answer. They relied on these natural resources rather than farming or trading, which came later in human history. Now, moving on to the second question. Why did hunter-gatherers move seasonally? The main reason was to follow animal migrations and seasonal plants. Answer B, this movement allowed them to access food sources that only appeared at certain times of the year. Understanding these key points helps us see how early humans adapted to their environments and maintained their survival. It highlights the importance of mobility and resourcefulness in their daily lives, which is a central theme of our overall discussion about human history. All right, let's move on to some questions to test what we've learned so far. First up, in which climate zones did gathering provide the majority of calories for early humans? The options are Arctic and subarctic, temperate and tropical, desert, or mountainous regions. Think about where early humans relied heavily on gathering plant foods and how different climates influenced their diets. Now, the correct answer is primarily Arctic and subarctic zones, where hunting and gathering were essential for survival due to the harsh environment and limited food resources. This highlights how adaptable humans were to diverse climates, relying on gathering in colder regions. Next, let's consider the social structure of hunter-gatherers. What was a key characteristic? Were they organized into large cities, strict social classes, small, communal bands with social equality, or focused on individual wealth accumulation? The most accurate answer is small, communal bands with social equality. Hunter-gatherer societies tended to be egalitarian, with little hierarchy, because resources were shared within the group. This social structure was practical for their mobile lifestyle and resource management. Connecting this back to the overall theme, understanding these aspects helps us see how early humans organized their lives around their environment and resources, shaping their social and economic systems. Let's explore some more challenges and questions about hunter-gatherers. Question 5 asks, how did they adapt to different environments? The correct answer is B, by developing flexible cultures and utilizing local resources. This means they were able to adjust their ways of life depending on where they lived, making the most of what their environment offered, rather than changing their appearance or inventing advanced technology. They were smart and resourceful in making sure they could survive in diverse settings. Moving on to question 6, what was the typical size of a hunter-gatherer band? The answer is B, hundreds of people, usually fewer than 250. These groups were small and mobile, which helped them stay flexible and avoid depleting local resources. Larger groups, like entire villages or thousands of people, were less common in this lifestyle. Next, question 7 asks about the role of customs and traditions. The correct answer here is B, they shaped behavior and values. Customs and traditions were very important because they guided how people interacted, made decisions, and maintained social cohesion within the group. They weren't just for fun, they helped keep the community together and functioning smoothly. Finally, question 8 considers the environmental impact of hunter-gatherers. The best answer is C. They had a relatively small impact due to their nomadic lifestyle. Because they moved frequently and didn't settle in one place for long, their activities didn't cause large-scale environmental damage like deforestation or pollution. Their way of life was generally sustainable and in harmony with nature. So these questions highlight how adaptable, organized, and environmentally conscious hunter-gatherer societies were, which ties into the overall theme of understanding their way of life and survival strategies. Let's wrap up with some key takeaways. First, the remarkable adaptability of hunter-gatherers. They were incredibly resourceful and flexible, managing to thrive in virtually every climate zone around the world, from the icy Arctic to the tropical regions. This shows just how adaptable humans can be when they make use of their environment wisely. Next, their approach to sustainable living. Because of their nomadic lifestyle and their diverse resource use, they managed to live without overexploiting any one area. This meant their environmental impact was quite small, setting an example of how humans can live in harmony with nature. Moving on to social structures, hunter-gatherer societies prioritized social equality and shared knowledge. They lived in small bands where everyone played a role, with little specialization beyond gender. This sense of community and shared responsibility was central to their way of life. Finally, this era laid the crucial foundation for what it means to be human. It demonstrated our species' capacity for innovation, cooperation, and adaptation across diverse environments. All these aspects are foundational to our continued development and resilience as a human species. Thank you so much for your attention today. I really appreciate you taking the time to explore the fascinating world of hunting and gathering societies with me. I hope you found it as intriguing as I do. Now, I'd love to open the floor for questions and discussions. Please feel free to share your thoughts or ask anything that's on your mind. Your curiosity and insights are what make these conversations so valuable. Remember, understanding these societies helps us see how human life has evolved and adapted over time. So, don't hesitate. Let's dive into any topics or ideas you'd like to explore further. Thank you again for being such an engaged audience.